What's up? Welcome to the best fitness podcast in the world. In fact, you'll get a lot of entertainment and current events here as well. Today's episode, we interviewed Michael Chernow. This guy went from drug addict, drug dealer to multi-millionaire entrepreneur. His stories are crazy. This episode had us on the edges of our seats. And he started a new company called Kreatures of Habit, where he makes a product called Protagonist, which is this one right here that I'm holding in my hand right here. It's basically oatmeal, except with 30 grams of protein. There's some probiotics in here. It's not artificially sweetened, so it's low in sugar, if any sugar at all. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. 6 grams of sugar, 8 grams of fiber, 30 grams of protein, like I said. Very healthy, added vitamin D, probiotics. We like this so much, we're actually probably going to invest in the company. But what we want to ask our audience is to try it out. Let us know what you think of this product. Do you like the taste? Do you like it as much as we do? Does it digest well for you like it does for us? Let us know. In fact, we got 25% off. That's the biggest discount you'll get on Protagonist that you'll find anywhere. So go to creaturesofhabit.com. That's KREATURES of habit.com/mind pump. Then use this code MP25, get 25% off your purchase of Protagonist. Try it out. Let us know what you think. Again, we're probably going to invest in the company because we like it so much. All right, here comes the show.
I've listened to some of your interviews and conversations, and I actually, I kind of started to piece together that we probably had a little similar history, and I'm like, I really want to get into some of that stuff because I don't hear you talk about it very much, or at least I haven't heard you talk on anyone's podcast. You briefly say it, and then you kind of move on from it. So,
well, Creatures of Habit, I mean, the story is really, it's based around my transition from addicted to I could say it, I feel like I'm living like my wildest dreams life, I'm not sitting on $1 billion, but I am definitely, I wake up 90% of the time fucking stoked.
Yeah.
And that was just not the case for years.
Before we got on, we were talking about both of our past and stuff like that. Now, when you were hustling, were you addicted or doing drugs at the same time, or did that come later, or did that even start before you got into selling?
Oh, I growing up in New York City, I should back up a little bit. My household was pretty tough. My dad was a really, really rough dude. And
military, yeah?
No, my grandfather was military.
Oh.
My father was supposed to be military, but he was a juvenile diabetic. So because of that, I honestly think that just developed some serious animosity and resentment in him, and it ultimately manifested in anger. And so he couldn't be a military. He couldn't be in the military. He was also a phenomenal baseball player, but the diabetes kept him from taking it forward. And so he was just an angry dude. He was an angry dude. We lived in a really small apartment. Does
that mean because I've heard you mention this before, and I haven't heard you go into detail. Is that he's loud and yelling all the time? He's controlling. Was he physically violent? Was he verbally abusive? What was he like?
He was all the above. I mean,
really?
When the physical stuff didn't really start to happen until I was about 10, 11 years old. And then when I was 12 years old, that's when it became a full-fledged fight between the two of us.
Oh, wow.
Because I was just not afraid of him anymore.
Yeah. Was he that way with your mom too, or was it just you?
He didn't strike my mom.
Yeah.
But he would shake her and throw her, and I witnessed that a lot. A number of times, and
very similar.
And my sister actually was spared. He did not
touch her.
I mean, he would yell and yell at her, but he never touched my sister.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the youngest. So
oh, you're the youngest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, I was from a young age, from as early as I can remember, I was always trying to get out of my house. I always wanted out. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't comfortable there. I didn't feel safe there. I shared a bedroom with my sister. So, and my sister and I had we were close in age, 15 months apart. So it wasn't having a younger brother as an older sister that's so close in age, you're just kind of I got my friends,
of course,
So it was just tough for me. It was tough for me growing up in that house, and I wanted out as early as I could. So I slept at friends' houses constantly.
Yeah.
My mother and I had a great relationship, and my mom is a super loving person, but she was also abused, and she made the abnormal normal. She was exposed to this crazy dude who today I've completely forgiven. I don't blame my father for any of the shit that I did. I really don't. I feel like I was predisposed to do the things that I did, as I was coming up in my life. But anyway, so because of that, I was out. I was always out. I was always like trying to stay at friends' houses. And
did you ever try to run away?
Oh, I was like, I lived in the runaway letter. I was just like, I just like wrote, I'm running away all the time.
Yeah, me too. I mean, my parents called the cops on me and arrested me for running away. And that was when I learned that I had no rights until I turned 18 years old.
Well, the crazy thing for me was that it got pretty ugly. Once I was like 12 years old, I was probably not a good. I mean, I'm not probably. I was a terrible child. I was smoking cigarettes. I was out late. They had no control over me. And that's when things got really bad at my house. And child services got involved because the cops would show up. And so now child services is involved. My parents didn't really have a lot of money. Child services said that, a male and a female teen are not able to actually share a bedroom. Like they're not supposed to share a bedroom. So, the child services came, they said they can't sleep in the same bedroom. So I had to tell them that I was sleeping on the couch in the living room, which wasn't true because I never slept at home. And then it got to a point where I started selling drugs. I was doing drugs. My parents would find drugs. I would come home.
This is at 13. How old are you?
They probably, when they started finding drugs, and knew I was selling drugs, it was like 14.
Wow, you started selling even that early, huh?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
End of my freshman year of high school, and then one day my father and I got into a really, really bad one, physical, and cops showed up, and child services came, and they told my parents that they were going to put me in foster care. If my mother didn't get me out of the situation, they had no choice but to put me in foster care, and I was like, there's no way. Like, I already live on my own.
Yeah.
Like, you're not taking me to foster care. So I told my mother that night, I was like, look, I'm out, like, you're going to have to find me, but I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm like, there's no way. A, I can't live with that guy anymore. B, he clearly does not love me, which I now know he did. He just didn't know how to. He really did not know how to be a father. Yeah. And some people just don't, I think,
Well, especially if you come from something like that, right?
Yeah, and my grandfather was like a hardcore naval officer, hardcore military guy. Not easy on my dad. But anyway, I moved out. I moved into Alumni Hall, which was like an NYU dorm. I was shacking up with an NYU freshman, and I lived in the dorm for a while, and then I promised my mom that I would go to outpatient rehab. She was like, that's the deal. Like, I want you to try to figure your shit out. Like, you're 15, 16 years old. Like, this is insane. But it wasn't insane for New York City kids. It just wasn't. Like I was working in restaurants. I was working in nightclubs. At 16 years old, I was working in like the hottest nightclub in New York City as a barback. And then, but I just learned, I learned, and I think developed the skill set that I have today, which is ultimately engaging with human beings and developing relationships.
Here's the giveaway for today's episode. MAPS Strong, the Strongman inspired workout program everybody loves, and you can get it for free. Here's how you win. Leave a comment below in the first 24 hours that we drop this episode. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, do all those things. If we like your comments, we'll notify you in the comment section. That's where we're going to notify you that you won free access to MAP Strong. One more thing, we got some sales going on right now. 2 workout bundles on sale. The Skinny Guy bundle, which includes all of these programs over here, 50% off. And then the Fit Mom bundle, which includes all of these other programs over here. That's also 50% off. So half off. In order to get the discount, click on the link at the top of the description below to get our discount. All right, here comes the show.
Do you remember like specific scenarios that happened to you like in those young years when that started to kind of come together for you, like how important relationship building was and all that stuff?
Well, I think it was something that I needed to develop even younger because I wanted my friends' parents to like me. You know, I wanted my friends' parents to like me so that they would allow me to
stay over.
Yeah. And I remember it like very clearly young being like, I have to make them think I'm a good kid.
Yeah.
And so that they can take me away with them on the weekends to their weekend homes, you know? And so that was like sort of the beginning of it for me. And I was good at it, you know? I was good at it. You know, I also was unfortunately like, there was sexual abuse by a sports coach while I was trying to find love from a man, you know, like a fatherly figure at a young age. And
this is on you?
On me.
At what age are you?
8.
Oh, fuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
8,
bro.
9, 10.
Wow.
I didn't know what was happening at
I was
the
going
time.
to say, when did that come together that was even happening? A lot of times when shit like that happens that young,
I had no idea. Honestly, I knew that this guy was awesome, treated me like a son, took me fishing all the time with other kids. I wasn't alone. But I also knew that like he would put me in the shower and like put shampoo on my head and like wipe my body down.
Oh, wow.
You know? And there was never like rape or anything like that, but it was like weird, creepy shit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just didn't think of it.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
think of
you
it.
know how shitty that is, especially from a boy who isn't getting the right love from his dad. Like at that age, you're probably not even connecting the dots that's not normal. You're just like, oh, finally, a father figure, father figure who loves me. This is what it looks like.
And he was also an auxiliary cop, like the guy, you know. So, and for me, you know, I was ashamed of this for a long time. I didn't know. I figured it out when I was like 16. I was like, oh my God. I was like, that actually happened to me. And I didn't talk about it. I used to get high and plan this dude's, like I was going to like take him out.
Yeah.
You know, like that was like the way I would go. That's where my head would go. Cause I was like, this dude, how dare somebody do that to such a young kid?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Did that take a couple years for you to process to get to that space of like, oh man, this makes me really angry looking back?
I mean, I think when I found out, it was sort of like I was a complete renegade in my life. Somehow I made it through high school and I actually graduated on time with an 80 GPA. But yeah, I think I was it evoked an enormous amount of anger, you know. But now I'm totally cool with it. I'm like, I've forgiven the guy. I mean, I think he's dead. I mean, I know he got caught with a bunch of child pornography, went to jail. But
Is that what made it obvious, or how, I mean, because obviously even at 16 with your kind of background, I don't even know if I even pieced together still at that point that like what had happened to you. Was it like really later when you're like, oh, for sure?
No, I mean, I think at that age, I kind of looked at it as an opportunity for me to feel loved, you know, but then I was like, but wait a second, like there were things, like I would sleep at this guy's house, you know, like we would sleep in the same bed together. This is weird. It was weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And, but I can honestly say, man, that like, I really loved the guy. Like I did,
well, of
you
course,
know,
that's
and
why
there wasn't like, and so I think speaking about it in this form, on this platform, in this format actually is really awesome to be able to do, because I know it's apparently 1 in 4 men are sexually molested at some point in their life, which is really,
God, it's that high? Is it really that high?
Oh yeah.
You know, men are more often, just when you include prison, men are more often sexually assaulted. That's a statistic a lot of people don't realize.
Is that what skews that number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you throw prison in there.
Yeah,
and
well,
you
fuck.
get-
Well, that's
yeah.
like crazy, right? There's a lot of people and a lot of men in prison, you know?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you know that happened, you know, and again, like I said in the beginning conversation, like I don't regret any of it. I think everything that's happened, I'm grateful for, because it's made me who I am today, you know, and be able to actually talk about the experience, and potentially somebody listening can feel a little bit of relief, you know. And so you know, I moved out. I was living like a lunatic.
Well, you're living in the dorms right now. We're
Living in the dorms.
14, 15 age. We're slinging and hustling to probably make your cash to pay for your food and do shit.
And working, and always had a legit job though. Like from 12 years old, I got my first job in a restaurant. I worked in a restaurant from 12 until 28 when I opened my first restaurant.
Okay,
now why do a legitimate job when you're already making money on the side, you know, selling drugs or whatever?
I think I honestly don't think that I believed what I was doing on the side was worthy.
Oh, I see.
Right,
you know, like I felt like I needed to have a legitimate job, because I really loved it. Actually, like I really loved it. I loved being in the restaurants at night and the nightclubs, like being the youngest kid always. You know, it was thrilling to me. I feel like I'm an adrenaline junkie. Like I loved that stuff.
What's your relationship with money like at this point? I mean, because for a kid that age and you're doing these jobs and you're hustling on the side, you probably had an abundance of money in comparison to probably your peers and stuff like that.
I did.
What are you doing are you blowing it like crazy? I know you're a fashion guy, so you like buying hella fucking expensive
I mean,
stuff.
I had at that time, you know, North Face was like a big thing in New York City. So I had like 20 North Face jackets. I had every pair of sneakers you could possibly imagine.
Of course.
You know, I mean, really, I think the money got in my late teens, 18, 19, 20, 21, you know, I would like work late on a Friday night till like 2 or 3 in the morning. I would leave work, take a car to the airport, hop on a JetBlue flight to Miami, you know, get down to Miami the next, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, or get on the flight at 6 and get there at 8 a.m. or at 9 a.m., get a hotel and just absolutely go ham.
Party. Oh, wow.
Party. I did that for a while. That was like my weekend. You know, I would like come to and on like the floor of a hotel room in Miami.
Wow.
You know?
Now, when you're doing that, are you rolling down there with a crew and friends and people like that? Or are you doing this solo and just like meeting people down there? Like, what are you doing?
I mean, I always would roll with a friend, but you know, I had a squad down there too.
Yeah,
you know, it was just like, yeah.
Now at this point, because you're hustling and stuff like that, are you doing hustle out there too? Or so are you actually dealing? No, you're not dealing out of your area.
I'm going down there to like
just fun.
Yeah, just a good time.
Yeah, party life and stuff.
And it's so weird because when I think back on it now, you know, I mean, we'll get into like where I'm at today, which is, I mean,
Totally different.
oh my God. I mean, it's just so bizarre to really close my eyes, sit here with you guys, and really think back on those times where I could not be more of a different human being today. Like I could, and again, like, I don't know if I'd want to hang out. I would not want to hang out with that guy.
Yeah.
At all right now, even though I don't regret that guy or have any ill will towards that guy. But today, like you would never catch me at, like I haven't been to a nightclub in like 15 years, you know? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that.
No, you've just evolved.
But I've just evolved and I can't fathom, you know, I also towards the end of my drinking and partying days, I was angry and violent.
A lot of fights?
A lot of fights.
Oh yeah.
A lot of fights at the end, you know, probably the last 2 years.
You're not a very big guy. Did you get your ass kicked a lot or how were you doing?
Interestingly enough, I mean, I certainly took a couple of L's, but I was always
Scrappy as hell.
I was always the first guy to throw a punch.
Oh,
and and that was my thing. And it got really frustrating for my friends, you know, and I that is one thing I do regret. Because I was fun to be around most of the time.
Yeah.
But if somebody said something to me or somebody did something that I didn't like and I was fucked up,
yeah,
I just clock them. And I got 86 from every single bar south of Houston, north of Delancey, east of Essex, and west of Allen Street. I mean, there was like a 4-block radius in the Lower East Side.
We're not allowed.
Now here I'm gonna make you do a crazy leap right now.
Poster with you.
Can you connect that attribute about yourself and how bad it was on how it served you in life today? Willing to throw the punch, first punch, fearless.
I mean, I'll tell you for sure that, well, the first thing that happened was the guys that really helped me find my way were competitive Muay Thai guys, Muay Thai kickboxers. And when I got sober, these guys dragged me off the street and threw me right into a Muay Thai ring. And I became obsessed with Muay Thai. And
what age is that at?
23.
Okay, so we got to fill the gap here still. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're at 16 flying down to Miami.
Okay, so, well, I didn't start flying down to Miami probably till I was like 19, 20, 18, 19, 20.
Okay.
16, I was still running around. You know, I was going, and at that point, I was not just selling weed. You know, I was selling everything. 16, 17, 18, 19. I was traveling all over up and down the East Coast, going to raves and like showing up with like suitcases worth of shit. And it was insane.
Crazy question you've probably never been asked. Favorite drug to sell and why? I'm serious. I mean, this is crazy, but fuck it, whatever. Yeah. I know you haven't been asked stuff like this. I'm curious. So
ketamine, in those days, used to come in a case of 144 boxes, a case of 144 bottles, and you'd buy a case of ketamine or cases of ketamine, and you'd basically pour it out onto plates, and you'd do like 3 or 4 bottles onto a plate. You put it in the oven.
Okay.
You pull it out and it crystallizes, and then you scrape it up. And you bag it. And the amount of money that I made on ketamine when I was like 16, 17 at these raves was just insane.
How are they doing it like crack? Are they smoking it?
No, you sniff it.
Oh, you sniff it. So you break it up and then it turns into like a powder?
So you basically throw it into the oven, it crystallizes and then you scrape it up with like a credit card, like you scratch it off the plate.
Yeah.
And, we would do this, it was crazy. It was so crazy. I haven't thought about this in so long.
That's why I'm making you go here. At that age, where do you even get that? Okay. Where do you even get ketamine?
Yeah. Cause that's a medical.
I mean, I lived in New York City, and I had my hands in everything.
Yeah.
There was a guy, obviously, that's so funny. We just installed a landline in our house. And there is a picture. The landline sits on our kitchen counter. It's got a picture of my wife, a picture of me, and a picture of my grandmother. And my kids all day long just pick it up and push the buttons and call us. So they're calling me. Perfect timing. If you boys only knew what I was talking about. Yeah. So there was a guy that lived on 2nd Street, and this is like in the 90s when downtown New York City on the east side was just bad news. It was just bad news. You know, like you did not go down there for any other reason, unless you lived there. And if you lived there, it was rough. But if you were going to the East Village, Lower East Side, back in those days, they called it Alphabet City. You were going there with intention and purpose.
Is it called Alphabet City?
Because after First Avenue, it was Avenue A, B, C, and D.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
And it was just bad news down there. But there was a guy on 2nd Street, across the street from this gas station. His name was Fantasia. And
his street name is that? Got to be a street name.
Oh yeah. I'm not giving you his full name.
No, of course not. I would never.
His name is Fantasia. But you would go into his apartment, and he was married to this woman who was super sweet. It's crazy to think I was a teenager doing this shit. But you go into his apartment, and his wife was a dominatrix. And so I'd walk into this apartment,
and you're a teenager.
and I'm going to the right to grab the, to meet with Fantasia, and then I look on the left, and there is like a crucifix hung up on the wall with shackles and the whole thing. And I mean, there wasn't people hanging on the crucifix while I was there, but she was dressed in this, just wild, man, wild New York. I was also in nightclubs, like the Tunnel and Limelight and Palladium. I had my 15th
Studio
birthday.
54 still a thing?
No, that was before me.
Okay.
But Tunnel, Limelight. I mean, me and my 14-year-old friends, 15, 16-year-old friends, we'd show up to these nightclubs. And like the drag queens would be like, kiss me on the cheek. And like you'd kiss them on the cheek and they'd like just let you in, I mean, I had so much fun in those days too. It was definitely not like outside of the stuff at home where it was gloom and doom, like
That was a good escape.
Oh man, I had a blast. I really did. Until it got ugly for me, until the drinking and the using became, it wasn't fun. It wasn't what I was, it wasn't what I set out. The intention was not what I had set out for initially, which was to escape and have a good time and, really just like,
How did you avoid getting pinched? I mean, a young kid like that, how did you have the smarts to not, and you're messing with as many things as you're messing with. How did you not get caught up?
I only had one run in. And this was it was either, I don't remember if it was right after my 15th birthday or I think it was right after my 15th birthday. I was on 10th Street and 3rd Avenue. I had a backpack filled with probably 50 2-gram bags of weed, a scale, a bunch of empty baggies in my backpack.
There's no lying there.
And I was
recreational.
I mean, I don't even know how we got into this crazy conversation, but fuck it. Yeah. My friend was was sitting on the stoop. It was at night. We were drinking 40s.
Yeah.
And I had to pee. And like an idiot, I didn't like take my bag off and leave it on the stoop. When I had stuff when I was carrying something like that,
never let it go.
I never took it off.
Of course.
And so I walk over across the street. I said, Al, if the cops come, give me a whoop. And sure enough, I'm pissing on a tree and these cops roll up. And I'm like, I'm on the sidewalk. They slowly approach on the street. And I just like immediately, put it in my pants and start walking down the block. And I see a van, like 3 or 4 cars in front of me, like down 10th Street. So I'm walking down 10th Street and I'm like, if I can get to that van without them coming out to stop me or call my name, I can get to the van, I could drop my bag off my back and just keep walking. Yeah. And maybe they won't, and I'm drunk at this point. So that's what I did. I walked, dropped my bag. They didn't call my name. They weren't like, hey kid. I keep walking and they're following like slowly. And I'm like, did they not see me pee? I'm like, am I getting away with this shit? And then they stop the car, put it in reverse, and I fucking bolt. And I run down to First Avenue, cut down First Avenue. I get to A Street to St. Mark's, and I realize that in my backpack is all my school shit. With my fucking name on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just the weed, right? Like, I got, I'm
school ID, fucking address,
homework,
everything.
And so I'm like, oh my God, and I didn't live at home at this point. I was not living at home. So I was like, they're going to either show up at my parents' house. Like, I'm just like, I'm going to go face the noise. Fuck it. I was either 15 or 16. I'm like, fuck it. So I walk back around. I walk down 10th Street. I would never have done that if I wasn't drunk, by the way. I'm sure I would have just like dealt with the repercussions and just been like, there's no way I'm facing these cops. I get there, bag is gone. I walk down the street and the cops were in between a car. They jumped out in between the car. They threw me up against the fence and they're like, you're fucking done.
Oh, they were waiting for you,
done.
huh?
Yeah, you are done. And they said we got everything. And I said, look, man, I just turned, I don't remember, again, it was 15 or 16. I was like, I just turned 16 years old. My friends and I put all of our money together. We just got down from Dykeman and we bought all this weed for the next week to smoke together. And the cop was like, don't,
the measuring
bullshit.
Scale and everything. Yeah.
Sure enough, that cop let me go.
Oh, wow.
Cop let me go. Took all my shit, but he let me go.
And what do you attribute to? What do you think it was? You coming back, or are you calm and collective about it? Like,
I think it attributes to 1995, New York City. Cops just found 50 bags of weed, and
on a kid,
and they were basically just like, nothing's going to happen to this kid.
Right.
Do we want to deal with this paperwork? And we just got 50 bags of weed. You know what I mean? Like I really do think that at that time in New York City, those were like the questions these cops would ask themselves, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They're going to put him on probation,
Right.
or maybe send me to juvie.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like he's going any. It's not like, and so
It's not like a big
they scared the living shit out of me. They cuffed me, and then they said, "This is your lucky fucking day," and that was it. That was the only time I really had a bad run. And now there was a guy that I used to do business with, and he was insane. He was one of the bigger dealers in the city at the time. And he sold everything out of his apartment, and he lived across the street from a police station.
Wow.
Literally
so
on
great.
20th Street,
It's so great.
across the street from the precinct.
That's wild.
And, I got away with, I really did. I got, outside of that time that I got robbed, that was a scary moment.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. That story, you told that off air. That's a pretty insane story. If you wouldn't mind telling that, that's
Yeah, so I was 19. I was living in an apartment on 9th Street between B and C. This is when I was either 18 or 19. I think I was 19 though. And this neighborhood, this is Alphabet City. This neighborhood is starting to change in 1998, 99 is when I lived there. And I had two roommates. One of them, he and I had been doing business together for years, actually. He lived in Jersey. He was older than me, but I was like his New York City connect. And then he decided to move into the city, and we got a place together. And then we had this other friend of ours take the third bedroom. Now, mind you, my bedroom, I'm not exaggerating, was the size of this table. I mean, it was like this was like
You fit
maybe
a twin bed,
one
that's
bedroom.
it. Yeah.
A futon, wall to wall.
Oh, wow.
It was ridiculous. But that was like East Village apartments. Those, and then probably still now. And I lived in this little tiny bedroom, filled with all my shit, and we weren't selling anything out of the apartment. But that was where we stored, that's where we had all of our stuff. And we made a pact with each other that we never bring anybody to the apartment, especially unless it was like a girlfriend, or a very close friend that we all knew. But you definitely didn't bring anybody that you were working with to the apartment. And one day, a month before this incident happened, I came into the apartment, and there were like 4 people that I did not know and would have never invited into this apartment there. And one of my roommates, not the one that I had been working with for years, the one that I had never worked with, but was a friend, was smoking and drinking with these dudes. And I walked into my room immediately. I was like, I want no part of this. And I heard him saying all sorts of shit. I got ba 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 ba, and he wasn't even involved, but he was like da 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 da, like just trying to be a big guy.
Oh man!
And when they left, I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why would you put us in a position like that? Like, what? Like, what are you smoking, dude?
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, I can do what I want. This is my crib." I was like, oh, whatever. I'm not gonna fight with him. So a month later, I was walking into my apartment. I was with one of my best friends from high school.
Who's not involved in the business.
Not involved in the business. Put the key in the door, turned the key, and these guys rushed in and, duct taped us, threw us in the bathtub, pistol whipped me. And then, it was 3 guys. They kept on coming in with they were putting on North Face jackets, and they were like, what, where is it? And they got me for like, 40 grand in cash, 5 pounds of weed, and there were 2 safes bolted to the ground. And they wanted the code. And I actually did not give them the code to the
Oh
safe.
my God.
Wow.
Serious?
I didn't give them the code to the safe. And there was a few reasons why. I think it goes back to sort of like my fearless mentality that I've always had and I still have to this day. It was a Friday at 3:00 in the afternoon. So I knew these guys weren't killing anybody. I didn't think that they were going to kill me. I really didn't think that they were going to kill me. God,
it takes balls to take that gamble, right? You're getting pistol whipped, you're getting duct taped. They're definitely serious.
Right.
They're serious. However, I felt like I knew one of them. And there were two guys that were definitely not playing games. The one guy who I know now orchestrated the whole thing was this who I thought I knew, and actually I did.
Are they ski masked up or something? Or
no mask, no nothing. Two of them had guns. One white guy, one black guy, and one Puerto Rican guy. And Puerto Rican dude and the black dude. Puerto Rican guy was huge. Black guy was like dreaded up and small. And white dude was, he like came into the bathroom when they were duct taping me, and he was like, "I'm sorry, I have to do this." And that's when I knew that, like,
you're the weak one.
All right, I'm not, these dudes are not going
Right, he's already apologizing to me
these
already.
dudes are not going to kill me.
Yeah.
They just wanted what I had. So anyway, that went down, and
How much was in the safe at the time? Do you know?
it would have been over for me and my roommates, because it wasn't weed,
Oh.
Yeah. It would have been real bad. So anyway, and the funny thing was, not the funny thing, but like in the I had the weed in the fridge, and it had been there for a while. And literally the day before, I called up this dude who unfortunately is dead now. And I said, "Yo, man, nobody wants this shit. It's not moving. It's outdoors. It's leafy. It smells kind of moldy. Like I can't move it, man. I can't move it. You got to come get it." And I swore to that. I was like, "That's it." I was like, "Ninja did it. He did it." I was like, "He sent those guys." And I called him up immediately, and I was like, "What the?" And he's like, "Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about." And I was like, "Yo, man, and both of my roommates blamed me, and you hang out with the wrong people, and somebody followed you, this and that."
And your poor buddy who fucking is not
your high school friend.
Oh, and he had that. I mean, that's, I'm sure, a story that he'll tell forever. But it ended up being the roommate and those guys
Wow.
that were there that one day.
Of course.
And
Did that not dawn on you right away, though? I mean, I feel like that would have been the first thing, if I'm you, I'm thinking of. Because
I was so, I was drinking and partying all the time. Like, I didn't even think, I was like, it's definitely my people.
Oh, wow.
Definitely my people. Because I definitely hung with a crew, that was not.
Now, was this a turning point for you? Were you like, "This is it. I gotta stop," or were you like, "Oh, cool. I got out of that. Let's keep going."
No, I mean, it took me a number of years to like snap out of it. Yeah, it did. I mean, I actually, so I moved to California actually for when I was 20 years old. I decided, I was like, all right, I got to get out of Dodge. Like, I got to figure out a better way, because this is not working. And I should also mention that around that same time, this is another crazy story. Oh my gosh. But I was still working in that nightclub. I was working in that nightclub called Life from 1990. It was either 96, 97 to 99. And I was the youngest kid there. And everybody knew that. Everybody knew that I was like this young kid. And there was a woman that was the maitre d' of the VIP room. And she was like smoking hot. And so I did everything in my power to like hook up with her. And ultimately her and I ended up hooking up. She was like 24, something like 24, 25 at the time. 20, maybe 23. I don't know. She had a sugar daddy that would come to the club. Big time real estate guy. Big, rich, older, real estate dude. But like kind of tough guy.
Yeah.
But she was coming home with me like 2-3 nights a week.
I can already see where this is going.
Yeah. Anyway, and we did that for a little while, and it didn't really work out well. I found out, and this is before heroin did become a part of my story at the very end, but it wasn't then. And I looked down on anybody that did heroin. Like, I was just like, heroin. I mean, that's for junkies. Yeah. Anyway, I found out she was doing heroin. And when I found that out, I was like, isn't going to fly. I'm not doing this. I have no interest in that. And when that happened, she told her sugar daddy that her and I had been sleeping together.
Oh God.
And it was summer of probably 98 or 99. And I was living in that apartment, and I was working on the weekends at a club in the Hamptons, bartending. And I see the dude, Chris, and I was a kid. I was a kid, but I was, whatever. I see him, and he locks eye contact with me, and I just saw the look of death in his eyes.
And you know who he is.
Oh, yeah. I know who he is. I mean, I was a drunk piece of shit at that time in my life. And he walks up to me, and he puts his arm around me. And I'm telling you, like, I can't recall. I mean, there were very few moments in my life that I've ever been that scared. I thought I was going to shit my pants. And he has a backpack on. And he goes, you're lucky I have kids, because if I didn't, I'd kill you myself. He takes his backpack off, and he pulls out this is like a out of the movies kind of story. He pulls out a stack of cash, and he shows it to me, and he goes, "This is the money I'm paying to have you killed."
Wow.
And I was like, literally, it was like, I was terrified. And I didn't think to myself that, like, how could this guy tell me that he's going to do this? You know what I mean? But that actually happened. And the craziest part of this story is her ex-boyfriend before Chris who's a psychopath, who's also unfortunately dead now, is a very good friend of mine. Chris did not know that this guy was a very good friend. So Chris calls up this dude and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you this money to beat this dude to within
Wow.
to beat this dude to within an inch of your life."
No way.
He calls me, and he goes, "We got to fake your death."
Because I want this money, but I'm not going to kill you, bro.
Yeah, and I swear God is my witness, man. We brought a couple of thugs to that apartment on 9th Street, underneath the staircase. Went to Abracadabra, this Halloween store, got all this face makeup.
You did
I
not.
swear to God, I still have the photos, man.
Shut up.
I still have the photos, but not fake the death. Like, basically
Like a
said, like,
beatdown.
he beat the shit out of me, and gave him to Chris. And I said his name, whatever. But yeah, man, the stories are just. I mean, I'm very, very slowly chipping away at a book.
You have to.
Because the stories are just incredible.
You know what's interesting?
Nuts,
Two
man.
times now, or three times now, you've talked about events where it seems like, by the grace of God, you got out unscathed. You got cops let you off. You went in your apartment, had got pistol whipped, didn't get killed, and then this guy tried to get you beat almost to death. Well, you could have accidentally gotten killed, and it worked out where you faked it. You ever look back and go, "Wow, that's really crazy"?
Well, I will say that I come from outside of my dad. There was love in my family. My grandmother, who's this woman here, who's my dad's mom, was probably the most impactful person in my life, because she was an absolutely wonderful spiritual being. And when my sister and I were like little kids, she was a practicing Buddhist. And she used to, my sister and I used to run around her apartment in Queens singing Nam Yum Ho Rangang Kyo. And, she was just like this hardcore Buddhist, and she meditated for 4 hours a day. And she was just the most serene. She was, her profession was, she was a crystal healer. She had a crystal shop in Queens. My step grandfather was an artist. He used to make fake plants. And so there was a part of that, like, my life where I had this ability to feel taken care of somehow, some way. Now my relationship to the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is insanely strong. I'm not a religious guy, but I have a real connection with the universe and the energy
Greater
that is
power.
not me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not me. I know that. I think that's the most important piece, right? Me knowing that I'm not the one in charge, and that's all I care about. I don't question it. I don't wonder. I mean, I do things every single day, which I'm sure we'll get into in terms of like my habits. My habits are everything for me. But yes, you're right. You know, I'm lucky to have gotten through a bunch of intense moments that at the time didn't seem so crazy because the crew of guys that I hung out with, it was like a Tuesday afternoon, you know, like kids were getting robbed all the time, all the time, you know, bad motherfuckers just doing bad things. And I, you know, one thing led to the next. I went out to California, lived in Venice for a year.
At what? How? Okay. What are you now? 21?
20. I moved out to Venice. I lived on Market Street between Pacific and Speedway. Before Venice was like, you know, Abbot Kinney and everything on Abbot Kinney. But I lived out there for a year. I was really kind of chasing an acting career. I wanted to act.
Oh, really?
Because I mean, and I think the only reason why I really wanted to act was because I was in the hospitality business, and everybody in the hospitality business was actors. So I was like, oh yeah, this is obviously what I'm going to do.
Right, Justin?
You know?
Yeah. Bunch of failed musicians.
And so I went out there, and man, it was bad. It was bad. You know, I took me with me. You know, I crashed cars. I got into crash the first time I was ever on a motorcycle. Crashed it. You know, it was not good, and I really made my friends' lives miserable out there because they were childhood friends of mine. I moved in with them, and you know, I actually moved out there to try to clean my life up, though. And I remember going.
That was the intent.
Yeah, that was the intent.
I was going to say, because my next question was going to be like, how did you handle money? Because if you built a hustling business on the East Coast, that's not easy to. That's all about connections and relationships and all that stuff like that. You're going on the other side of the country.
Yeah, I basically surrendered that business outside of connecting a couple of people with people and staying in the mix that way. Yeah. And have, you know, trusting people really at the end of the day to like do right by me after years of relationship developing. And but I went out there and I didn't do any of that out there. I really was trying to clean it up and get my shit together. And so I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and the second meeting I went into, I locked eyes with this girl, and that was it. You know, her and I connected and off to the races together. And it was.
Is this your wife today?
No.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not. But yeah, I mean, you know, her and I had a relationship, and I was crazy as hell. I don't even know what she was thinking, but yeah, I nothing good happened out there for me. And I went, it was Christmas 2020. And
whoa, how do we get all the way to Christmas 2020?
I mean, excuse me, Christmas 2000.
Oh, I was like, whoa, bro, you just skipped like a decade and a half right there, dude. Go back up.
Christmas 2000, and I came home for Christmas, and my father died on that trip home. So I came home. My dad was pretty sick. I mean, he had been in and out of the hospital, and at that point, you know, my relationship with him was definitely better because we were not living together or seeing each other much at all. Yeah. He really had not a lot of respect for me because of the life that I was living, and
of course.
But I will say, and it makes me emotional to think about it. I remember we did go out for Chinese food when I got home from that trip, and I remember sitting across the table from my father, and we were talking about California, and he said to me, we were talking about acting and how the acting thing's going, and he looked at me and he said, you know, you have a lot of emotional baggage that you can tap into in order to channel it for acting. And I was like, yeah, like what? And he closed his eyes, and then he opened his eyes and he started bawling, crying. And he said, you know, just tap into the shit that you and I went through. And I just, like, when I think about that, it really, really, that was like a moment where I felt like my father was kind of forgiving me. And
or
like,
even saying sorry to
or saying sorry, you know. Anyway, he on Christmas night, it was either Christmas night or Christmas Eve, he had a diabetic seizure, and we rushed him to the hospital, and he was in the hospital for a few days, which he had kind of been in and out of. And then one night he had apparently a heart attack and went into a coma, and stayed in a coma until the day he died, January 11th, January 11th, 2001.
So not that long after that moment.
Right. Yeah. So that was it. And then, you know, I also had an opportunity, even though I was totally out to lunch for most of that time, because I just like didn't know how to process what was going on. But I did go into the hospital alone, and he was in a coma. And I remember sitting on the floor making amends to my dad. And that night, I had a dream that he was dead. Oh. And then he died a day later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, like, today, God, do I wish, even though all the shit that we went through together, father and son, do I wish to God that I can have him back for a day? I mean, I'm even getting emotional. I didn't think that was going to happen. Thinking about it, but I would love to be able to have my dad to just, even though it was so hard, just to show him that I've changed, you know, that I'm a different human. I am me being a father today of these two guys. I could never imagine yelling at my kids like that, treating my kids like that. I could never, ever, ever imagine doing that. Like, you have to be so angry and hate yourself so much to be able to project that kind of energy towards little kids. Like, I just can't imagine it.
Broken, man. Broken.
He was broken.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for it. You know, I really don't. I mean, I've come to terms with that shit. But I would love to have him for one day, to be able to say, hey man, you know, and the crazy thing, man, is that I know he's, and this goes back to like my grandmother and this spiritual kind of connection that I believe I have. I believe that he's come to visit me in my dreams. Like, I have had full-fledged conversations with my father in my dreams, talking about relevant stuff, and waking up in the middle of the night crying, and waking up my wife and being like, I just had a conversation with my dad.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And the weirdest thing is I've only had a reading actually twice, but a reading that really, you know, somebody said to me, hey, like, you should try this out. You should call this person. And I called this woman, and she was like, well, we can do this over the phone. And a reading is like a psychic, you know, like sort of tapping into, you know, the dead.
Yeah.
And so she started, and this woman, I mean, she knew everything. She knew everything. It like impossible that she could have like Googled and Facebooked and done, like, I was like, she must have been all over my Facebook. She must have been tracking, you know, and then I kind of like, you know, like to succumb to the fact that this woman is actually speaking to the dead. And, you know, she brought things up about my father and I that I could never have imagined. And she said to me, your father visits you in your dreams, and he also moves the pictures on the wall. And I was like, in our apartment in Brooklyn, when you walk into our apartment, there's a wall that's sort of diagonal right here. Like, you walk in the front door, there's a diagonal wall. On this diagonal wall is a family wall, family pictures. Pictures are always crooked on this wall, and we always, you know, straighten them. And I always just assumed that was from the door closing, and the pictures would shift. And this woman said, your dad moves the pictures on the wall, and he visits you in your dreams. And I was just like, lost it. When she said that, I lost it. And my wife was like, what's the matter? And I was like, telling you, it's like you could believe what you want, but you know, this woman knew everything about me. She said this. She said my grandmother, you know, orchestrated all these people. She said this is my first dog. She said, you know, she said that a white dog is always with you, always with you. And I'm like a massive dog dude. And you know, when Duke died, it was probably the hardest day of my life. And like crushed losing my father when my dog Duke died. Yeah, I don't know. We're kind of digressing, but you know. So anyway, I guess like getting to the good stuff.
Yeah. When did that start changing for you? Because where you're at now is so different.
I had known that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol for a long time. Since I was a kid, since I was 15, I knew it. I knew that I had a long love affair with escapism, and that was my way of doing it. And so I knew that it had to stop at some point. I knew it was either going to take me out, or I had to come to terms with it and figure out a way to change. I just didn't know how, but I had started trying. I'd gone to an AA meeting on my own. Couldn't figure it out. You know, I was miserable. I really hated myself at that point in my life. And I'd overdosed on heroin 2 weeks before I actually got sober.
How old are you right now?
23.
Okay.
And I was in this apartment with this girl, and we were doing heroin for a few days. And I remember getting a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And when you're high on drugs, like, you know, you can look at yourself in the mirror and your face will be pale, and that's normal. You know, when you're high on you know, really high, like pale face, they're like, all right, well, that's kind of like normal. I caught a glimpse of myself in a full length mirror, and my whole body, top to bottom, was white like these Air Force Ones, and it scared the shit out of me. And I was like, I've never experienced that before. I never felt that way. I never experienced that. And I stood up, and I was naked. I stood up and I was out. I fell. And I was coming in and out, and I was like, please call the ambulance. She was afraid to call the ambulance. She got me into the bathtub. She turned on cold water. I was on the shower. I was like coming in and out of consciousness somehow, some way. Fourth time I came through it. And I remember lying in the bed, shivering and saying to myself, God, please help me. Like, I can't ever do this again. I just can't ever do this again. I have too much to offer. Like, how can I do this to myself? And 4 hours later, I was walking east on 13th Street, and I said, Mike, this has got to be the end, man. It has to be the end. And it wasn't. I found myself that night, you know, still, you know, up to the old shenanigans. And then I kind of had made a decision. I said, this is it. Like, I'm gonna die this way. And I'm going to do everything in my power to do it as quickly as possible. So I partied hard for 2 straight weeks. And it was a Monday morning. I'd been up for a few days. Monday morning, and I was with 2 of my friends. They had said, all right, man, we're done, calling it a night. I said, I'm not, you know, because I had made a decision that I was going to go as hard as I could. And we were on the roof of my building. I got into my apartment, and I like, again, caught myself in the mirror, looked at the guy that was looking back at me, said I hated myself, said I didn't deserve to live, wanted to kill myself. For the first time, really, I like really wanted to do it. It wasn't like, oh, I should kill myself. This is such a hard life. It was like, dude, you're just useless and worthless, and you should just jump out the window. And I thought about all different ways that I could do it. I locked my bedroom door, and I passed out, and I woke up 16 hours later, and I slept through. I was supposed to work that day. I slept through work. My boss fired me, and my job was like everything. I was working in this Italian restaurant. It was like everything for me. I had nothing else going on in my life. Really, I didn't. And I lived upstairs from the restaurant. I lived in the same building on 2nd Avenue between 5th and 6th Street. And I begged him for my job. I begged him for my job. I didn't think that I was going to get, I like the thought of like getting sober didn't like cross my mind that moment, but I begged him for my job. And he said, look, man, I love you, kid. I was 23. I've been working there for 3 years. He's like, I'm not going to watch you kill yourself on my dime. I'm not going to do it. So I will be willing to give you an opportunity to get sober. But you have to get sober, and you have to show up here at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can clean the restaurant with the porters. And if you can stay sober for 30 days, I'll potentially give you your job back as a bartender. But you got to get sober.
Wow.
And that's what I did.
Wow.
You saved your life, bro.
Saved my life. Really, he did. And then I went to a meeting, an AA meeting, yeah, that was the beginning of that was the end of the beginning of the end of the dark days and the beginning of the new days for me. And
so is that at the same time when you find the Muay Thai guys?
Yep. So there was a woman who I worked with at that nightclub life who's this woman, Karen, who became like an older sister to me. And she was dating this dude, Marcus. And I knew Marcus was sober. Karen wasn't, but Karen had taken me in many times throughout this crazy period of my life. You know, I would be down and out. She would like let me sleep at her house. And so I called Karen and I said, hey, I'm trying to change my life. Like, I got to figure something out, you know? And she said, I'm calling Marcus right now. And so I knew that it was Tuesday morning. I knew that I can get to an AA meeting. I knew of an AA meeting on First and First. And I went there, and then he met me after the meeting, Marcus. And he introduced me to a dude named Gavin. And those two guys, you know, they were like angels.
How much older were they than you?
They're both 10 years older than me, I think.
Okay.
8 to 10 years older than me.
Okay, so they're like 30, early 30s.
Yeah, I looked up to them. You know, they were both dudes covered in tattoos, and they took me to the Muay Thai gym, and they were like, we're going to teach you how to change your life, but we're going to teach you about commitment, discipline. We're going to teach you about integrity, humility. We're going to write you a plan. And I was like, why are these guys trying to help me so much? Yeah. You know, like, what is, like, what, like, and I stopped trying to question it, and I just rolled with it. And they wrote me a meal plan. They wrote me what you're going to do is you're going to wake up as early as you can in the morning. You're going to do your best to go for a run. And that could mean run around the block. That can mean run a mile. That could be run 5 miles, but get outside and take a run. Have a bowl of oatmeal when you get back home. Go to this AA meeting at 10 o'clock. Come straight to the gym, Muay Thai gym, right after the AA meeting. You're going to train with us, and we're going to kick your fucking ass and teach you how to be a man. You're going to have lunch after that, which is ideally going to be chicken and broccoli. You're going to take a nap, and you're going to go to work and do it all over again. And that's your day. And that's what I did. That's what I did. I prayed every morning because they also told me that I had to pray. And they didn't talk to me about, you know, meditation or all the things that I do now. But, you know, they basically said, like, you need help. You haven't been able to ask for help for years and years. And, you know, I'm not telling you got to believe in God or anything like that. But you got to start your day with humility. Get on your fucking knees and ask the universe for help. And that made me think of my grandmother. And I took to it like that. And I began to build my life. I changed, you know, I dove deep into the world of fitness and Muay Thai. And I got so passionate about Muay Thai. And I watched my body change in the course of probably within 90 days, I was in the best shape I'd ever been.
Wow.
I really cared about what I put into my body for the first time ever. I became passionate about running. And 6-7 months after I made that change, I met who is now my wife.
Oh, wow.
And she's never seen the guy that we just spent the last hour talking about.
That's crazy.
You know, and we've been together now over 17 years. And she celebrated my first year anniversary, sobriety anniversary. So I owe my life to
The restaurant.
I owe my life to all the experiences that I had, right? Because had I not gone through those things, the chances of me doing what I'm doing now are slim to none, right? Like, had it been just like a, normal kid life, like, I wouldn't have the balls. I wouldn't have the drive or the ambition to want to go at everything with everything I've got. And I really do owe that to that experience. And then, of course, Frank Prizanzano, shout out to Frank, who said, I'm not going to watch you die, dude. I'm not going to let you die on my watch. And it, like, the stars aligned for me once again, And so I dove, again, like, my life was really about Muay Thai, eating healthy, staying sober, and my girlfriend. And she stuck by my side. I also never in a million years thought that I would find a woman like her. Like, she, first of all, she was 22, I was 24. She was like a top model, traveling all over the fucking world. She was like 3 inches taller than me. I'm like, there's no way. Like, she came into the restaurant one night, and I was like, this woman is so beautiful. She was with a girlfriend and 2 dudes, but I was like, they're with 2 guys, and I'm just like, I'm like not even gonna pay it any attention. Yeah. But she's fucking beautiful. Anyway, an hour and a half later, after they had sat down, the 2 dudes leave, and they come and sit at the bar, the 2 girls, and I'm like, wait a second, there might be a chance here. Anyway, so they hung out with me all night, and Donna, it was August, and the only reason why I know the exact date was because her birthday is on April 25th, and it was April 23rd, and she was 2 days before her birthday, and I was like, they hung out with me for like 3-4 hours, and I said before they were leaving, I was like, you got to let me take you out for dinner. You just got to let me take you out for dinner, and I would love to do it on your birthday. I'm off in a couple of days. Let me take you out for dinner on your birthday. And she was like, I can't, I've got plans. And I was like, well, if you let me take you out tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, we can celebrate your birthday at midnight, and I'll still be able to take you out on your birthday. And she was like, all right, I'll let you do that. And we went out for dinner. I took her to my favorite restaurant, Blue Ribbon, and we had an amazing night. And then she ghosted me for 2 weeks because that guy was actually a dude that it wasn't her boyfriend, but it was a dude that she was seeing. So she was, she had to figure that out. But she texted me 2 weeks later, and we've been tied at the hip ever since. And she's the love of my life. And yeah.
What point did things start happening for you? Right. So obviously you've turned your life around. You meet your wife. You're getting in your best shape of your life. When does the business stuff start happening? Because I know it was the meatball restaurant first of all the things.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me the origin story of that.
When I was 25, I had kind of come to the conclusion or the realization that I was going to be in the restaurant business. This was going to be where I hung my hat, because I really loved connecting with people. I do believe that is my purpose and my superpower. I mean, I've never met you guys before, and I've just sat down with you all, and we're like, I feel like I genuinely believe that you could put me in any situation, anywhere in the world, at any time, at any hour of the day, and I will find a way to connect. I'll find a way to connect. It could be in the White House, and it can be in the favela. That's like.
Do you remember when you made that connection to that? A lot of that came from all the shit that you went through.
I mean, I don't actually. When you guys asked me that earlier, I really do believe that having to figure out how to make my friends' parents like me, played a big role in it.
Well, plus you worked in restaurants and in that environment since you were a kid. That's a lot of training.
Yeah, and I also know that I got paid in restaurants based on how much people liked me.
Sure.
Yeah, you worked on that skill.
Yeah. So I was 25. I said, this is it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take Frank out, and I'm going to tell him that I want to do this restaurant, and he's going to be like, go get it, kid. I'm going to support you. Here's the money to do it. And it was different. He looked at me and he was basically like, I hear you. I love you. I just don't think you have it in you. And that was when, I flipped the switch and the fire really was lit under my ass. And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. Not in spite of him, but I am going to do it because I really believe I do have what it takes. And as I was leaving, he said, Mikey, but if you want to do it, you should enroll in culinary school. So the next day, I checked out the culinary schools around town, and there was the CIA, which was a 4-year commitment and $400,000 commitment, which I didn't have. Dude. And there was a French Culinary Institute, which was about, I think it was like 12 or 13 months commitment. And I could do it. I could get financial aid, and I could do it during like 3 or 4 days a week from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and still get to work.
Still like 60, 80 grand, right? It's still pretty expensive.
I think it was 45 grand at the time.
Okay.
And so I enrolled. And I went to culinary school probably a few months later. While I was there, I was going to culinary school during the day, going right to work at night. It was an intense time. But while I was there in culinary school, Cornell has the #1 hospitality program in the country, Cornell University. And so professors from Cornell, a couple of restaurateurs from Union Square Hospitality Group, which is a big hospitality group in New York, Danny Myers, Shake Shack, and all these, these really, really iconic New York restaurants. Cornell, a couple of those restaurateurs, and French Culinary put together a truncated associate's degree in restaurant management. So they introduced that about halfway through my culinary arts program, and they offered a scholarship to it for one person. And I said, chances are I'm definitely not going to get this scholarship. But the scholarship was you have to submit a fully baked restaurant concept and send it in and see if it got picked. And sure enough, I came up with a concept called Homemade. And the concept was a burger restaurant that you can choose. It was a burger restaurant and you design your own burgers. But the real kicker was there was artisanal cheeses that you can choose to pair with different proteins. So like you can have like these crazy cheeses, basically the most incredible cheeseburger you've ever had in your life, right? And they were bringing in different cheeses. And anyway, I came up with this idea, this concept.
I'm in.
And
yeah.
And I won the scholarship.
No shit.
Yeah, I got the scholarship.
That's so cool.
And so I took that course. So it was like an 18, 20 month total thing, and graduated and put my head down. I was 26 and a half, 27, wrote a business plan. My best friend from childhood, Dan Holzman, who really lived a different life than I did. He and I he always was like somehow my connection to some stability, because he was not a drug addict, even though he partied. He was not a drug addict. He was not a bad kid. Didn't get into the things. I mean, he'll tell a funny story. Oh my God. Anyway, enough.
No, you got to divulge. Now you got to tell the story right here so we know who he is.
I got in trouble for something in school, and I was a junior, and
this is high school.
High school,
yeah.
And I knew that I was getting into something bad was going to happen. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I was like, I told Dan to come over here, and I basically handed him a softball of cocaine.
Oh, wow.
And I said, dude, you got to hold on to this thing for me. Junior year in high school, he'll tell that story like hilarious. What do I do with this? Yeah. But so he and I got our first job in a restaurant together. He was 13, I was 12. Candle Cafe on the Upper East Side of New York City. I was delivering food on rollerblades. And he was answering phones in the delivery department. And so that's kind of how we met, where we met, or that's basically how we became friends. And he gravitated towards the back of the house in the kitchen. I gravitated towards the front of the house, and we stayed working in restaurants, on and off together, but like our whole lives, right? When I knew that I was going to do, I wanted to do this restaurant, I said he was living out here. He was living in San Francisco, cooking in all the fancy restaurants out here. And I said, dude, you got to get back to New York, man. You got to get back to New York, and we're going to open up this restaurant and we're fucking kill it. And he was like, man, you know, I'm like, you know, he was at like the 5th floor, the slanted door, one of these fancy restaurants out here. And he was like, I'm building my culinary career, this and that. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, man, you got to get back to New York. We got to open up this restaurant together. He's like, I'm in a relationship. And I called his older brother, who's also like my brother. And I was like, Eli, you got to tell Dan to get back here. You just got to tell him. I know that this thing is going to work. And he was like, just keep working on him. And then one day I called him, or he called me actually. And he was like, dude, I just broke up with my girl. I'm so bummed. And I was like, yeah, here it is. This is my chance. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Why don't you come back to New York? We'll hang. We'll hang. We'll go out, like take a few weeks. We'll hang. Anyway, I ended up getting him to move back to New York. And we started putting the pen to paper, and we wrote a business plan, and we came up with this idea. At this restaurant that I worked at, it had now been 7.5 years that I was working there for Frank. There was a dish on the menu called the rigatoni ragu, and
that sounds bomb.
The restaurant, Frank Restaurant, is arguably one of the best Italian restaurants in New York. Definitely, at the time that I was working there, had the best Italian wine list in New York. Tiny little mom and pop restaurant, just fucking insane though, just unbelievably packed, and just you'd walk in there and there'd be like, at that time, there would be like Kate Moss and like fucking Sean Penn.
Oh, wow.
It was just, one of these spots, like cool downtown little spots. And so rigatoni ragu, I was the king of selling a $13 bowl of rigatoni ragu pasta and a $1,300 bottle of like Romano del Forno to the same person. I was like, that was every night I was like, I'm gonna do a rigatoni with a fucking del Forno. But the pasta was so good, the dish was so good. And for family meal, for me, 2 to 3 nights a week, I would say, hey, let me get the rigatoni ragu, sans the rigatoni. Just give me the meatballs, the sausage, the tomato sauce, side of broccoli, side of spinach, side of beets. And like, that was my meal, and people would ask me like, what is that? And I'd be like, oh, I'm just having, meatballs and tomato sauce with a bunch of veggies. And one day I was like, man, this is a restaurant concept. Like, I can make tons of different kinds of meatballs, and the sides are endless, endless. Everybody loves meatballs. And so Dan and I couldn't figure out what we wanted to do restaurant-wise. We were walking north on 2nd Avenue, and I just said, man, what about meatballs? What about meatballs? And he was like, meatballs. And I'm talking to this guy who was at La Bernardin, the #1 restaurant in the world for like 4 years. All these fancy restaurants here in San Francisco. I'm like, let's open up a fucking meatball window. Anyway, he perked up, and we started cooking meatballs. And we started cooking meatballs in my apartment in Brooklyn. We invited all of our friends over on Sunday nights. We started writing the business plan. And that's it. We locked in. We locked in on this. People were like, this is really cool. And then I put the business plan in front of every regular at Frank Restaurant that had watched me grow from a kid to semi-man. And 14 of those guys wrote me a check. And
wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Test right there.
There's that relationship stuff you were talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
14 of those guys wrote me a check, and I put my life savings into it, which was not a lot at the time. And Dan put his life savings into it. And we took this little restaurant, 39 seats on Stanton Street between Orchard and Allen, called it the Meatball Shop, did meatballs, sides, and custom ice cream sandwiches for dessert. And I mean, dude,
crushed right away.
So we hired a publicist that was advised. I had no idea what a publicist was. This is like all new to me. This whole business thing is all kind of new to me in the restaurant world. But anyway, we were advised to hire a publicist. At that time, restaurant PR was very significant. Like, the restaurant industry in New York City at the there this is the beginning of social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People were taking pictures of all their fucking food. People were yelping like crazy. And it was really starting to, like, it wasn't about like, what's the best restaurant in New York? It was more, what's the best pizza in New York? What's the best sushi in New York? What's your favorite burger in New York?
Yeah. More specific.
Like what's the ramen spot? Anyway, the biggest publicist in New York at that time there was a few of them, but one of them was Guy Phil Baltz, and he had a company called Baltz & Co. And so somebody introduced us to him, and Daniel and I did not hire a contractor to build out the meatball shop. He and I did it like haphazardly together. I'm a New York City kid, spent most of my life like running the streets. I was not a power tools guy. Like, I had no idea. He'd be like, and his father was a construction worker. So he handed me a grinder, and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this thing, dude? And so I was his bitch for like 3 months because he knew what he was doing, kinda. Yeah. But we turned this old noodle restaurant called Slurp into the meatball shop in 2.5 months. No contractor. Like, I spent like no money. It was the middle of the winter. Anyway, we papered the windows, and this guy walks in about a month into Dan and I doing the work, and I'm like on my knees, sanding the floor. I'm the craziest thing too is like I called a friend who was in construction. I said, hey, I need a bunch of wood. I'm trying to build tables for a restaurant. He was like, wow, that's so interesting. We're demoing an old tenement on 3rd Street right off of the Bowery. Go get a truck. There's 3-inch floorboards or 3-inch rafters that we're just throwing out into the dumpster.
Wow.
So show up and we'll give you all these things. So I'm talking about like these beautiful heart pine, 3-inch thick, 20-foot long boards that we could take as much as we want. And so we filled up this truck. My uncle is a cabinetist in Queens. We filled up the truck, took it out to my uncle's spot, and he made the bar. He made the tables for the first 3 meatball shops out of this same wood. But he made the bar. I mean, it was a crazy cool story.
So cool.
And actually the New York Post did a full piece on that wood story. And so, we did that. Like, it was just so, bootstrapped to the max. Like, we didn't want to turn on the heat because we didn't want to pay the bills. So we were working in a freezing cold fucking room, concrete floors. Like, it was brutal. Anyway, so, publicist walks in, he sees us busting our ass, he meets us, and he's like, you two are like, this is like out of a movie. He's like, you two are best friends, you're doing this, like, you guys are building the place, meatballs, nobody's done a meatball place, who knows if it's gonna work, but I like you guys. He gave us a shot. And he gave us a shot for like a steep discount. Anyway, the day that we opened the restaurant, February 9th, 2010, sorry. Dan is the most pessimistic, skeptical dude you've ever met in your life. This guy is like, he is just like, it is never going to work. And that's why we complimented each other in the beginning, because I am the most optimistic, positive. Like, I could be looking at Mount Everest and I'm in my underwear and I'm like,
I got this.
I'll figure it out. Anyway, we're standing at the back of the restaurant and I'm like, dude, we are going to crush. And the paper was on the walls. Paper was on the windows. We did not look outside. We were like running around the restaurant trying to get this place ready. And he was like, dude, there's nobody out there, I guarantee. 5 o'clock. Publicist said, you do not take that paper off those walls. You do not want anybody getting into the restaurant or taking pictures of the restaurant and leaking this to the press before we have our PR plan. Sure enough, 5 o'clock comes, rip the papers off the walls. And there was a line of people outside of this restaurant, in front of the restaurant, down to Orchard Street, halfway up Orchard Street. There was over 200 people online.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so I looked at Dan and I was like, holy shit. I walked all the way to the end of the line. I told all the people to walk out in front of the restaurant. And we took a picture of all these people waiting online.
Oh, so cool.
Did they have any idea what the concept was?
They did, because there was like, the PR was like, So the way the PR works is you give an exclusive to the New York Times. You try to get the New York Times to and there's a woman named Florence Fabricant who covers all like the new spots, and she'll write a blurb, you know. New York Times isn't going to write a big piece on a restaurant that's never opened before, but if Florence Fabricant likes the idea, she'll give you a blurb on a Wednesday, you know. And so you give them the thing, and then you tell them that it's the exclusive, but then you kind of tell every other publication that they got the exclusive too, and you line it up. You line it up. So you're like, New York Times is going to get the exclusive, and then you lock the days in, and once they lock in the piece, they're not pulling it. And they know that this shit goes down. I'm not like spilling the beans here. You know, like it's like a strategy.
Part of the hustle.
Part of the hustle. So we got Florence Fabricant to write about it. We got New York Mag, like all these people and every day a new piece came out, right? Leading into it. And people were fired up, but they didn't want anybody into the restaurant to see what it looked like inside, because they wanted the New York Times wanted to like reveal, you know, this thing, or New York Magazine wanted to reveal the images of the photo of the shots. And so that line never ended. We paid our investors back in 6 months.
Wow.
We were cooking meatballs on Jay Leno, Jimmy Fallon, Chelsea Handler, Good Morning America, The Today Show.
Just
within
like
a
that.
year, it was just like wildfire. It was insane. And we raised more money. You know, we opened up.
Let me go back a little because I do want to know. I'm curious because I know it's not cheap to start. How much initial capital did it take?
We opened up the first restaurant for just under 400 grand.
Okay.
So it was like 390 grand. But you know, the crazy thing is you plan for the worst in the restaurant biz, you know, and most restaurants go out of business, not because the idea's not great or the food isn't awesome or the staff isn't great. It's because they don't have enough money in the bank to hold on till
It's a battle of attrition.
it starts to
Oh, is that true? Is
turn
that true?
cash
I
flow
didn't know that.
positive. Undercapitalization. I mean, look, there's definitely people that go into the restaurant business, you know, people that are rich that are like, oh man, I'm going to open a restaurant.
Yeah, it's
you know what I
easier,
mean? Because there's so many moving parts and the margins are so slim, but you have to be capitalized. You have to have operating cash in the bank because there's going to be months where you lose money. It's just the nature of the beast, you know? And if you lose money and you got no money in the bank and you can't make payroll, everybody quits. Yeah. And
Then
you're done. You're done. So, you know, we were lucky that the restaurant took off like crazy because I don't remember how much we had. I think we had 40 or 50 grand left over in the bank. And, you know, you typically want to have 6 months worth of business operations in the bank when you open up a restaurant, or at all times really. So it was a wild time and unbelievable. And that's what sort of gave me the confidence to start building a media career for myself too, because I felt really good like in the environment.
So when you took on more capital, how much more capital did you take on, and was the plan, let's go open up more of these? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. So we took on $3.5 million.
Oh, wow. So serious capital now.
Serious cash. Took on $3.5 million after we paid back our initial investors. And we began, and basically they had committed to $3.5 million, and we would be able to draw it down as needed when we were ready to open a restaurant. And it was one of the initial investors that did that. And so we, you know, Daniel and I just started like figuring out where we were going to open up these restaurants. And the second restaurant, I knew that I wanted to be in Williamsburg. I knew I was living in Williamsburg at the time. I really wanted to open up a restaurant in Williamsburg. There wasn't a lot in Williamsburg at that point. I knew that we would crush it there. And simultaneously, we found a West Village opportunity that, you know, it's kind of like in New York, when you're a New York City restaurant person, the West Village is just like, it's kind of like an iconic place to have a restaurant. Like some of the best restaurants in New York are in the West Village. So when we found this little place in the West Village, small little spot, we decided to sign 2 leases pretty much at the same time. And you know, there was a lot of unbelievable learnings from that first year and a half, but it was also really challenging for Dan and I. Because like I said, you know, I'm a super optimistic dude and he is a super skeptical guy. And one of the smartest guys I know, but I'm definitely the creative visionary out of the two of us. And so we were butting heads, man. Even though the business we could not have asked for better business. We could not have asked for a better outcome. It was, it was challenging for us to work together. And but we stuck with it until we couldn't stick with it anymore. Until it got to a point where I was like, yo, I am miserable. I don't feel like I'm living, I'm working 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, brutal. Like, I've got to love this shit. And that's when I learned that I was not motivated by money. Money did not motivate me. Even though I love it, it's awesome to have. My happiness is far more important than cash in the bank and capital. And I think that was a real turning point for me in my life, because I wanted to bow out of Meatball Shop. I didn't want to deal with this, not the stress of the business, because I say today, put me in any negative situation, and like negative situation, chaos, challenge, difficulty, I thrive. Put me in a room with a bunch of negative people, and it's my kryptonite. I cannot function. I just cannot function. I do not do well with negative people. People that'll look at something and say, there's no way. I did not believe in there's no way. I still don't believe in that there's no way. I have been able to figure shit out my whole life. And when you say no way to me, the second that I spend thinking of impossible no way is a second I'm not spending thinking about possible, every fucking possible way. And I realized that then. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. You guys want to scale the business in a different way than I want to scale the business. Dan wanted to open up in Huntington, Long Island, Connecticut, Westchester, Jersey. I was like, I've got no interest in Huntington, Long Island, Westchester, Connecticut. Like, I do not see myself immersing into those communities. I'm a New York City guy. I want to open up in Los Angeles, Chicago, South Florida, Austin, Texas. Like, I could do that. Totally see myself being in, and also the media was so strong in our business. The PR was so strong. I was like, we need to go make a splash. Like, you don't go from New York City to Huntington, Long Island, and people are like, yeah. They're like, oh man, that's where you go to die. You got to go with it. You got to hit the billboards. Like, that's what's got to happen. I was like, Dan, if we open up in LA, it'll be like New York all over again. Like,
so he's trying to be more practical. You got a grander vision of where you guys could go.
He is a very, again, like, Meatball Shop would not be successful without him, for sure, because he is very smart. Like. Yeah. And he basically held me,
reins you in.
Yeah, reins me in. Because I'm just down to take a risk and jump off first. So I said to the guys, look, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, Dan and I we're not seeing eye to eye. We're not getting along, and I'm miserable. And I didn't change my life to be miserable. I would rather take a risk on selling you guys some of my equity and going out and trying to create another restaurant concept, because I know I have the confidence that I can do that, than try to trudge the mud here and be miserable, even though the business is crushing. So that's what we did. They bought out a significant piece of my equity. I stayed on as a board advisor.
What was your equity at the time? Were you 50-50, or did you have a percentage because you had investors and stuff?
So Dan and I each owned 33% of the company each, and the investors owned 33% pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. But you still kept 10, so they really only bought out 20-something% of you?
Yeah, they basically bought 24%. So it took me just under 10% of the company.
How big of a payday was that for you?
It was pretty big. I mean, for me, it was definitely 7 figures.
Yeah.
And I was 32, so I was like, "This is it." Like, like that day came, and I was like, I felt good for the first time in a little bit, because even though I knew that the company was, I gave them a great deal on my equity, and I knew that the company was going to be worth probably way more over time. I just knew that like I need to be happy. So anybody that's listening, you know, like I promise you, money does not buy happiness. I know that. I know that for sure.
What direction you go after that?
So I started developing my next restaurant concept, which is called Seymour's, which I opened.
That's the seafood one?
Seafood concept, sustainable seafood. I'm a lifelong fisherman. I love fishing. I love sustainability. I really wanted to open up a seafood spot that showcased local sustainable fish, because I grew up fishing, and all the fish that I grew up catching, you never see on menus in New York City. It's tuna, halibut, cod, you know, shrimp, crab legs. Like lobster. That's what people think of seafood, right? Mm-hmm. There's a plethora of underutilized species of fish that will actually save the ocean by us eating it, not deplete the ocean by us eating it. What a great concept. And so I created this really fun restaurant concept. I opened it without partners in 2015, and exact same thing happened. Crushed it.
Same. Give me an idea too. So now you get paid in 7 figures. So, which by the way, in the restaurant business is actually a huge payout, especially considering you're only getting 20%. That's a big fucking deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, restaurants aren't typically like huge money makers. So
but also just like for me, I think when you think about it, like I was, you know, smoking crack 6 years before this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this was crazy.
It's crazy that I was able to like really transition my life.
Yeah,
like
that is unbelievable. So now you're stacked up at a point in your life where you now for sure know that money isn't all you want at all. Like there's other things. You take that, parlay some of that into this, and you pay it yourself. So you taking $500,000 of that money, a big chunk of money, and going all in on
pretty much on
the seafood.
Yeah, I took a big chunk of my cash, and then I raised some more.
Okay.
So I raised some more money. I didn't do the whole thing on my own. But I did it alone without partners. I needed a break from partners. I didn't know if I was going to scale this thing. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew that I needed to see if I had what it took to do it again. And I loved every minute of it. My wife, you know, was nervous because of course I'm taking another risk. And I should also just say the whole way through here, like I met Donna when I was 24 in 2003. And excuse me, I was 24 in 2004, and she like supported every second of my life the whole way through. Like she knew I was tender when I was getting sober. I was very clear with her. Like, look, my life, you know, when I met her was like, I was dedicated to Muay Thai, and I was dedicated to like being a better version of myself, and I needed to go to AA, and I needed to do all these things in my sobriety. And like, if you can manage that, and if you can deal with that, and if you know that I'm not going to be going out partying or whatever, she was like, I am with you 100%.
Wow. Yeah, a good woman will see potential in a man. They do that really well, don't they?
Well, I mean,
she saw it.
She saw it, and she is the strongest. She's just an unbelievable person. You know, I mean, really, my wife is a very special person. She's Danish. She's raised on, she will hate if I say this, but I'm going to say it because it's true. She was raised on a farm, you know, all women. There was very few men in her life. Her father left, you know, the parents got divorced. It was Donna, her mom, her sister, her younger brother, her aunt, and her grandmother, all on one dirt road. Like 35 minutes outside of Copenhagen. And I love my Danish family. I love them. I really love them. Like I have the best in-laws, both her mom and her dad. I love them. So she was raised with this, like in this like strong household, you know, where she really is self-sufficient. She did not need me to carry her any which way, shape, or form. She carried me. I mean, she was the breadwinner for the first, you know, many years of our relationship through her modeling work. But anyway, so I opened up this restaurant, and a mentor of mine this guy who I'd been, using as a soundboard, who's really smart dude, was running Le Pen Quotidien at the time. He came to he came to the opening night of the restaurant. I had told him about the concept like 6 or 7 months ago. It was like 6 or 7 months before. It was basically on the back of a napkin. I made this shit happen quick. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing called the real deal, where you get to choose your fish, you choose the sauce, and then you choose the sides, and then we're going to do fish tacos, and we're going to do fish sandwiches, and we're going to do all these like cool, fun, like sort of New England style fish things. But I'm going to only use sustainable fish. I'm only going to use fish that nobody fucking knows what they are, because, they don't have there's no marketing behind them. The fish industry, the seafood industry is a marketing industry. It's crazy, but it is. Tuna and salmon are like Nike and Apple. And it's just wild. It's wild how that happened. Tuna was garbage fish in the 60s, up until like the 60s. But anyway, so I designed this business, designed the restaurant, built the restaurant, and Jay came to opening night, and he wrote me an email the next day. He was like, dude, you came to my office, you showed me the back of a napkin of this idea. You literally built the exact same thing you showed to me. I've never seen anybody do that before. The concept is going to resonate. I want to leave my job, and I really want to work with you to scale this company. Now, mind you, this guy's like 15 years older than me. He's running like 1,000 restaurants nationally, and I could never be his boss. Never. I wouldn't. I don't have the audacity. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to learn from him the whole way, the whole time. And I said, Jay, dude, I love you, man. I'm so grateful for all the stuff all the wisdom that you've shared with me. I can't take on a partner right now. I just came out of a pretty tough situation. Like, cannot take on a partner. And he was pretty relentless. He did not want a no from me. So every couple of months, he would just say, dude, I'm telling you, because it was New York Magazine #1 restaurant in New York for over 6 months.
Wow.
I mean, the place was just on fire.
Wow.
And he's like, dude, I can raise $6 million. Come to the table with a lot of money. And so I said, look, man, I can't be your boss. I would consider doing this if you came in as a CEO. I'd take the president's seat. We raise money. We scale the business to 30 million in revenue, and then you buy the majority of my equity so that I can go create another business, and we'll do that. And that's exactly what we did.
Oh, he agreed.
Yep.
Did that play out?
Yep. 100%.
No shit.
To the T.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Yes.
And so I sold very similar meatball shop for a very similar amount of money in 2019, November 2019.
Oh, wow. Very
The
nice.
timing.
Very nice timing.
Squeak that away with that
Yeah,
one.
I felt real guilty about that, but
How did he survive during COVID? I mean,
Great.
you too. I guess you still
it was brutal. It was a brutal time, but there was only one casualty, actually one casualty through COVID for Seymour's, and then as things started to clear up a little bit, and it was really interesting, the dynamic of landlords in New York City. Like, at first they were like, hell no deals. Nobody's getting deals. This is going to blow over. I'm not locking myself into this long-term deal with, percentage of rent or percentage of sales. Like, no fucking way. Like, this is a flash in the pan. In a few months, this is all going to go away. No landlords were negotiating. And when it started getting worse and worse and worse, and New York City shut down, like businesses were not able to conduct, landlords started to have to think about what they were going to do, because they got mortgages and they got to pay bills too, right? Yeah. Like, if they're not going to deal, then everybody's out, because there was no you could not get evicted, and all the good guy clauses and all the clauses that would essentially tie you to a deal were released. So you basically could just hand the keys back to the landlord as long as you were pre-COVID up to current with your rent. You can hand the keys back and call it. And so landlords started to deal, and a lot of those restaurants, including the meatball shop, although the meatball shop took more casualties, the meatball shop took the original Perry Street and and Chelsea shut. Landlords didn't want a deal, and the restaurants weren't making enough cash to survive it. So Seymour's closed one, and that was in like a market. It wasn't really a big one. And then as things started to clear up, like towards the end of like 7-8 months ago, when things started to feel like they were getting better in New York, this landlord of the original Seymour's said, "I want all the money from the rears. I want all of it." And we have it in writing, like, no, this, we're not, this is what we're going to do going forward. And he was like, yeah, well, I want it all. And he wouldn't do a deal. And we didn't want to spend the money in court trying to fight him. So we just closed the restaurant.
Yeah, here's your keys, buddy.
But Seymour's is kicking ass. Meatball Shop is doing better now than it was doing pre-pandemic with 6 restaurants. They're doing it with 3, which is awesome. And so that's what we did in 2019. I sold equity and I started putting the pieces together for Kreatures of Habit, which is the business that I'm now the CEO of and running.
So what's that all about?
So, I mean, as I didn't spend too much time talking about like my life in fitness and my life in wellness, but realistically, how I managed to really sink my teeth into a better life than what I was living was not only through sobriety and the people that helped along the way, but really, really diving into fitness and nutrition. Those are the 2 things that I became obsessed with. I wanted to see how far I could go. And so, like I said, I trained Muay Thai for 10, 12 years, something like that, competed, and smokers, my gym put on, and then I started running marathons, and I became passionate about endurance training. And I just, my whole entire, my diet was basically this meal plan that these guys wrote for me the whole way. I didn't change it. I ate oatmeal with a bunch of stuff that I would add to it in the morning. I ate chicken and broccoli and, some more veggies for lunch. And I pretty much ate chicken, salmon, or some sort of lean protein with veggies and some sort of starchy veggie for dinner. And I just stuck to this plan. And I started meditating, and I started this morning routine that really set me up for success throughout the day. And I wanted to open up a wellness restaurant in New York that had a vibe. There was no restaurants in New York City that were healthy, that didn't look, smell, and feel healthy.
Hippie spots.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's it, right? Like if you were gonna go, I mean, there's like Sweet Greens, which is a lunch spot. But like if you want to go on a date and you're a healthy person and you don't want to go to one of these awesome restaurants that you're gonna have a delicious meal in, but you also know that it's a 7,000 calorie meal because the only way they make that steak taste the way it tastes is because it is sitting in a bucket of butter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I remember the first time I learned that when I went back behind the kitchen and saw them like literally taking like a half a cube of butter and setting it on. I was like, oh damn, that's why my steak tastes like that.
Right. Yeah. So like, you order the steak and you're like, okay, this is like, for me, like I eat steak regularly. I eat a lot of meat. But when you're working with, you don't need to have butter on your steak. You don't need to add like 4 tablespoons of olive oil to a piece of halibut. You just don't. You don't need to like baste it in olive. Like it's not necessary. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to change that. I wanted, because now that Sweet Greens was around, like it was very, very clear that people were lining up by the thousands to eat a healthy lunch, except there was nowhere for them to go that they wanted to hang out in for dinner. So they would either go to like one of these spots where they're going to have a delicious meal in a cool environment that just essentially annihilates what they had for lunch. I wanted to create that place. I wanted to create that spot. But I didn't want to stamp out restaurant after restaurant. I wanted to use this restaurant as a marketing hub for a line of consumer packaged goods. Because I said, in order to enjoy the food at a restaurant, it's a regional thing. You got to be in New York. You just got to be in New York. You got to be either living in New York or you got to visit New York in order to experience it. How can I touch more people? And how can I tell my story of wellness saved my life? Like, how can I do it? What can I do? And so I said, I'm going to do the CPG thing. I'm going to use the restaurant, create this awesome spot where people can come, have delicious food. We'll call out keto, paleo, and plant-based menu items. You know, it'll be like everything that you want, except just not using all the shit that restaurants tend to use to make it taste 17,000 times better than it needs to taste, because steak with salt and a little lime or lemon, fucking delicious, dude. It's delicious. Yeah. Like, you use the right ingredients, you know, like roasted sweet potatoes. Dude, you don't need to hit them with maple syrup and walnuts. Like, they're fucking sweet potatoes, man. It's like candy. Come on. So I said, I'm going to create this awesome spot. And I found the restaurant, lined up investors, and it was February 2020. And I was about to sign the deal in March of this awesome restaurant in Williamsburg, 1-level structure, 8 skylights, brick walls, just beautiful. Sick. 5,000 square foot spot. You know, the front was going to have a little retail area. We were going to incubate products in the restaurant and just have this super cool, like, spot in the front where people can come and, you know, grab sauces, grab things that we were making in the restaurant and take them home. And then whatever people were walking away with, I was going to put money behind in CPG.
Smart. That's real smart.
And, you know.
That's right before the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen.
Yeah, so that didn't happen. So March 2020 comes, there's grumblings about this thing, and I'm like, I call my investors, and I'm like, oh, this is not sounding so good. I was putting $250,000 of my money into it, and I said, guys, look, you know, we got to pause this. I'm certainly not taking your money, and I'm definitely not putting my money into a brick and mortar business right now. And at this point, I was a business guy. You know, I had built, scaled, and exited 2 successful businesses, and people believed me. They had faith in me. They believed me. And anyway, I watched my career as I knew it crash and burn. Right? I watched, and everybody thought everybody was done. Yeah. Every restaurateur, after 2 months of this stuff, where the streets were desolate, and landlords didn't want to make any deals. Yeah. Everybody was like, it's over. This is it. It's never going to be the same. It's over. So I packed up our shit, my wife and I and our 2 kids, and we moved to our house upstate for, you know, temporarily. We're like, all right, let's, you know, just pack a few bags. We'll go upstate. We'll hang out in the woods over the summer, and, you know, we'll see what happens. And we won't have to be locked into our apartment in the city. We'll be outside. And that bag just got bigger and bigger and bigger until we emptied out the apartment. I rented it out on Airbnb for a year and sold it last summer. We moved upstate. I was on a run. I literally have, running is one of my, like, absolute, people ask, like, where do you find inspiration? Like, what do you do for inspiration? And sometimes I wonder what that question is actually, like, what is the premise of that question? Like, what does that mean? Like, do people actually, you know, like, what do people do for inspiration? Do they watch something? Do they read something? Do they go somewhere? What do they do? I found out now that my inspiration comes from running 7 to 10 miles with no music, no headphones, just running with intention of trying to figure some shit out.
Mm-hmm. You keep the body busy.
Meditating. Really.
Yeah.
You keep the body busy and the mind is open to be free.
And so I came up with Meatball Shop like that. I came up with Seymour's like that. All of the details and all those things I really developed on these runs. And so I was on a run upstate. It was beautiful, summertime, and it came to me. I said I was going to draw a line through the restaurant, of course. What can I do in CPG, direct to consumer, that feels authentic to me? And the first thing that popped into my mind was the first meal that saved my life: oatmeal. I've been eating it every day since I got sober, pretty much. I've added so many things to it over the years that it's become way more than just oatmeal. I'm not going to go head to head with Quaker, you know?
Right.
But I can create a meal that is incredibly optimized, functional, convenient, easy to ship, dry product, long shelf life, sticky category, breakfast, you know. Mm-hmm. it just all kind of came to me on that run. I am going to figure out a way to package my oatmeal and my morning supplements into a pouch, make it taste real fucking good, and that's how I'm going to launch Kreatures of Habit, because that is my story. And not only will I, if I'm able to do this, first of all, it would be something that I would purchase every day, or I would have it every day, because I do have it every day. You know, at that time I was 40, best shape of my life. I was competing in men's physique bodybuilding. I like nutrition is everything in that, you know, in that world.
Oh yeah, it's obsessive.
It's obsessive. And you know, and I was actually going to bring this up because I know you guys talk a lot about, you know, when on the podcast, you know, people ask lots of questions, and specifically when it comes to competition, you guys are like, look, you know, it's a very, very slippery slope, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're an obsessive person and you have any issue with food, any food insecurity, if you've ever had a food eating addiction, disorder. Eating disorder, whatever, trying to compete in bodybuilding of any kind is dangerous, right? Because you have to be so dialed in. And it, no matter how you look at it, you develop some level of eating disorder, right? Because especially after you compete, after being in the best shape ever, you are shredded to pieces. Like people are like, I want to get shredded. I'm like, you do not want to get shredded. Like there's a difference between being lean and in great shape and shredded, right? Shredded is like, it's not fun getting
extreme.
There. Yeah. But I really, at that point in my life, every single gram mattered to me. I knew exactly what I was eating, when I was eating it, how I was eating it. And I said, this is what I fuel my system with every single day. It's the first meal of my day. How can I figure this out? You know, I'd never done anything like this before. I was like, what do I do? So I came home from that run. I said to Donna, babe, I'm going to the oatmeal business. And she was like, what? And I was like, and I told the story, and she was like, you know, honey, like I don't know what to say to you outside of like, you're crazy. And I believe you. And so I put $200,000 into a bank account. I called all the people that I developed relationships with over the years, you know, who I knew had some connection to CPG, to the wellness industry. I said, help, I need help, you know? And I think all those years of praying every morning and asking the universe for help and starting with humility and doing that has just given me the opportunity and the confidence to just have zero qualms about asking for help. When I think about if I could say anything to my younger self now, it would be put your fucking hands down and ask for help. Ask for as much help as you can ask for. Be shameless about asking for help. You empower people when you ask them for help.
Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm. You empower people when you ask them for help, you know? Ask for as much help as you can, because I was so afraid of asking for help. I did not want to ask for help, ever. I wanted to do it all alone. I wanted to figure out how to get it done. And so because I started, those guys put that lesson in my path early on, you know, get on your knees and ask for help, just gave me this confidence to ask for help along my journey as an entrepreneur. And so I started asking for help, and I got connected with these guys out in LA, this natural formula lab. And I said, look, man, here's what I want to do. I want to mix gluten-free oats, 30 grams of plant-based protein, pink Himalayan salt, chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, omega-3 fatty acids, probiotic, digestive enzymes, and vitamin D3 into a pouch.
And make it taste good.
Yeah, and make it taste good.
Which, by the way, I'm blown away by that. Because I used to make a very similar oatmeal, and not quite all that stuff. And it was really tough to make it taste
Sounds like alchemy to me.
Yeah.
Well, the truth is that, so my oatmeal for years was basically oats, plant-based protein, chia seed, flax seed, pumpkin seed, and pink Himalayan salt. And then on the side, my 4 supplements every day was probiotic, digestive enzymes, vitamin D3, and my omegas. And that was my morning ritual post-workout, pretty much is how I did that every day. And so I said, you know, if I can get all those things together, if I can get them all together, how, like, is it possible? And I said it to this guy at OBI, and he said, he kind of chuckled. And I said, well, you know, I'm going to do it. So either you're going to be the guy to help me do it, or I'm going to find somebody else. Like, you know, and he said, I want to help you do it. And we started the journey, man.
Yeah. So you sent us a bunch of this before coming in. What's the name? Protagonist?
So it's called the Protagonist. And I came up with that name on that run too. You know, protein and oats. The brand is called Kreatures of Habit. But I spent a year working on it, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be honest. So I have no qualms telling somebody when the products suck, but yours is great. It really is. I looked at the box. So I got the box. One of our guys brought it to me, and I rolled my eyes because people give us shit all the time. I said, all right, let me look at this. I looked at the ingredients. Says, oh, this is good. This looks like good stuff. And we tried it. It's good stuff. I think you might have another success on your hands.
Well, I hope so, man. Today is actually the 1 year anniversary as I'm sitting with you guys telling my life story. It's been 1 year today, August 26th, 2021 is when I launched it in the marketplace. And we're building a community, man.
You know, Mike, I want to ask you this because I've been in the fitness and health space for over 2 decades, and I've seen it transform people, not just physically, that's obvious, but kind of along the lines of what you experienced with it. What is it about fitness and health that transformed you? Was it the discipline, or was it just that it was a sneaky way of going into personal growth without realizing it?
No, man, I know exactly what it was. We have very little control over the things that happen on a day-to-day basis. What we put into our body and how we move our body, we actually have complete control over. And when you do that in a positive way, it is a win. Like a big win. For centuries, those were some of the biggest wins ever.
Oh yeah, that's true.
What you eat and how you get through your day. Those were the biggest wins. Today, there's all sorts of other wins, money and cars and whatever. But you know, it's ingrained in us to win, to want to win with nutrition and movement. Nobody ever talks about that, right? Like, you know, when we were hunting and gathering, there was only one way to do it. You had to get out in the woods and hunt, and the win was what you killed, right? Like, and then what you ate. Like that was a huge win. And so we are wired to want to win that way. And for me, when I was down and out and not winning at all, the first thing that was introduced to me was the ability to win nutritionally and through movement. And I believe that that's what I locked into, man. That's how I changed my life, because now I know that I can win every single day. I have the power to win every day. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but I believe it with every cell in my body that, you know, if you can control the controllables, it'll play out in every other area of your life. Discipline from fitness and the challenge me, you know, like I love the challenge. I love, you know, I just made a huge transition from strength training and this bodybuilding thing that I've been doing for the last 5 years to CrossFit. And I'm like a pig in shit. I am.
Oh yeah, someone like you would love that.
Oh my God, man. I am like, and the coolest thing about it is that like all the sports that I've done and competed in to date are like solo sports, right? Like Muay Thai, it's you, heavy bag, and how well you train is how well you're going to perform against an opponent. But there's no team, you know? I mean, there's friends, but there's no team. Long distance endurance running, certainly no team. It's you and the road, yep. You know? Bodybuilding is probably the most isolated fitness experience one can have because it's really hard.
It's 24/7 too.
Yeah, it's just
you're eating alone in essence too. You're sitting with somebody else. You're eating something different than everybody else.
When I first started the bodybuilding thing, my wife really just, you know, hated the fact that I was just so disciplined. She resented it, you know? She resented the fact that like I could be out at a barbecue spot and have my fucking
Tupperware
prepped meal in my bag, you know, and be like, yo, that looks so good. So stepping into the CrossFit arena, it's a different ball game. It's like all community. And so I really what happened was my team about a month and a half ago at Kreatures of Habit, we did a deep dive with our power users, power customers, people that have supported our company from the day one. 30% of them are CrossFit athletes, CrossFitters. And so they took me aside like 6 weeks, 7 weeks ago, and they were like, dude, you're a pro bodybuilder. You've got marathons and all these things under your belt with competition. 30% of your customers are CrossFitters. That's a massive percentage of customers that are doing the same thing. You're a competitive guy. How are you not at CrossFit right now? Like, why are you not doing that? And that next day, I walked into the closest CrossFit gym to me upstate, called Railroad CrossFit. I met the owner, Sean. I had no idea. I thought that I walked in and I basically was like, yeah, I want to compete in the games. and I had no idea what I was talking about, of course. I had not
There's
really.
that optimist again.
Yeah. And they were like, whoa. And so they said, can you come back in a few hours? We'd like to sit down and interview you. And I was like, interview me? What am I walking into here? And I'm so grateful that that's how they conduct, because they sat down with me for an hour and a half, asked me all these questions about my life and why I'm doing this and all this stuff. And they were like, look, man, the culture and the community of this place is what makes it awesome. And if all you want to do is throw, sandbags and kettlebells and barbells around and compete, there's a guy down the street I would happily send you to me. And you should meet him anyway. But he was like, if you want to actually be a part of the community and have a really good time and challenge yourself, this is the place for you. And they said, after talking to me, he was like, I don't know if it's going to be great for you here, because you've been doing all these sports where you're very competitive. And anyway, I went in there and I love it. I love the community aspect of it. I didn't think I would. I love it. I love, doing a workout with, a guy 15 years older than me or 15 years younger than me, and being able to do the same workout with somebody, except they're moving different weight or moving at a slower, faster pace. And I think it's awesome. So I'm going to compete in the games now. Give me a couple years. No, but I definitely I love the CrossFit.
Did you completely abandon the idea of doing the third restaurant concept? I mean, are you considering still, obviously now that the pandemic crap is?
I mean, I think for me, now being out of the restaurant business for the last 2 years, for the first time in my life, I've been working in restaurants as a technician and then ultimately as a business owner for the last 27 years before I 2019. I have breakfast and dinner with my family every day.
Yeah.
Every day. I do not miss it.
Yeah, restaurants
Clockwork. Demanding. I am at home at 6:00 every single day with my family, having dinner with my boys. We go over their rose, thorn, and their bud for the day. Like, I will never, ever give that up, ever again.
Yeah.
That's great.
The, CPG game is extremely difficult and the margins are very slim. Are you at a 1 year now? Are you out of the red yet?
No. We probably, profitability in this, I mean, I've learned so much over the last year and a half, 2 years in this new industry. Profitability is where I've got my crosshairs are right sitting on profitability. That is my priority as a business owner, because it's so rare to see profitability in the CPG game. Mm-hmm. You just keep raising and hope that your sales and revenue are strong enough that some big conglomerate wants to come around and scoop you up. Yep. I know, however, that profitability is what defines a healthy business.
Right.
Like in the restaurant business, if you are not profitable, you're done. It's just that's just how it goes. And so, no, we're not profitable yet. Hopefully, we will be. We did 50% better than we projected in our first 12 months, which I'm proud to say.
That's huge.
And, we have a strong, really bright future ahead. We got some great people involved with the company. People love the product. We actually are, and I'm constantly iterating the product. This is like this is a full, complete meal. You got 40 grams of carbohydrates, 30 grams of protein, and anywhere between 9 and 12 grams of fat per serving, 350 calories, made in 2 minutes. You could take it everywhere and anywhere with you. I mean, I always have them in my bag because I'm like, it's delicious, and I don't want to sacrifice an unhealthy meal. So if I'm traveling and, I'm in a hotel and, there's nothing around, like,
you get a microwave and stuff.
That's it. Boom. Easy, And so there will be more products over time. I'm in the habit business now. I'm not in I really don't look at it as a nutrition business. I look at it as really like, I'm going to create habits that are easily implementable for people to live better versions of their lives. And so, that's going to come with some sleep stuff, and it's going to come with some snack stuff over time. But, this business is giving me the opportunity to tell my story, that like, you never know the catalyst to change. You never know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Oatmeal happened to be part of mine. You know what I mean? It's like, it just did. And I know it's
oatmeal story I've ever heard.
Yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, like, authenticity is not duplicable, right? Like, it is just not. And so if you've got a story to tell and it's real and you believe it, you're I think entrepreneurs, the good ones, are good storytellers. I mean, that's like it, like, there's business of business is storytelling and relationships, and the foundation of relationships is trust. And so if you could do those things, right? If you could tell a great story, develop relationships, and then have people trust you,
so
you could sell, shoelaces to Nike. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's like that is it. And so I've never really been scared to take a risk on doing something that I believe with every cell in my body in. And the businesses that I've launched to date have all been businesses that are like part of my DNA. Like, they are me, right? Like, I could stand in front of anybody and tell you the story of Meatball Shop. I could tell you the story of Seymour's. I could tell you the story of Creatures of Habit, because it is as real as it gets. And I think that resonates.
Did I read that you're in the real estate game too?
I'm not in the real estate. I mean, I've done real estate deals, but real estate deals have actually been super successful for me. I'm not in a ton of them, but
I thought I read that you had quite a few.
No. I mean, I did in the real estate decisions that I've made, I've done pretty well. But yeah, no, I would love eventually to get into the real estate arena, because
the 2 restaurants, you still are getting royalties basically from the 2 restaurant chains.
No royalties. So I just sit on the board. I own a piece of equity.
Oh, so there's no passive income coming from that?
Nope.
Oh.
But the goal is, right? The goal for me is that the CEOs of those 2 companies continue to build them to the point where they get acquired, and me owning 9% of those 2 companies each will be another awesome payday at some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, good deal. Great podcast, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
That was a good time, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I didn't know we'd get as deep as we did. Man, I feel like I just got the best therapy session of my life, man.
That was great.
We're like all brothers now. Dude.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks again.
Right on.
This one's really important, and that is to phase your training. If somebody trains for a full year doing a bench press, and they're always aiming for 5 reps, if you compared that person to a person who did bench press where they did 3 or 4 weeks of 5 reps, but then they did 3 or 4 weeks of 12 reps, and then 3 or 4 weeks of, let's say, 15 to 20 reps, and then they'll throw in some supersets. At the end of that year, you're going to see more consistent progress from the person who's moving in and out, and less injury. That's another thing. You'll see less injury as well.